Assalamu alaikum students. Today we will practice the questions from paper 2 of October November 2023, third variant. Question number 21. Which statement describes a base? So we have to relate with the properties of the base here. First option A, it reacts with ammonium chloride to produce ammonia gas. So to remember this property of the base, we have to look at the literature of the reactions of the base or an acid with the ammonium chloride. So here we studied this topic, reaction of the base with the ammonium salt. So what we learned, whenever there is a reaction of a base with ammonium salt can be any compound in which the ammonium ion is bonded with the negative part. That negative part can be chloride, it can be nitrate, it could be sulfate. So any of these negative parts when bonded with the ammonium ion, that will produce the ammonium salt. One such example is ammonium chloride. I can take example like ammonium nitrate, which is NH4, NO3, and similarly sulfate, which is NH4 called Y with SO4. So these are examples of the ammonium salt. So when they are reacting with a base can be calcium hydroxide like this one. It could be, or it could be any other base like sodium hydroxide. So as a result of this, there is the formation of the ammonia gas. Ammonia gas is produced as a result of the reaction. So the option says that when a base reacts with ammonium chloride, it produces the ammonia gas. So this seems to be the correct option. We will also validate the other option. B says it reacts with calcium carbonate to produce carbon dioxide. So this is not the property of a base. It is the property of the acid. Acid reaction with metal carbonate like MCO3, which M stands for any metal. You get salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. The option is reacts with copper to produce hydrogen gas. So copper. So the copper when reacted with the acid produces hydrogen gas, not the base. So copper should react with the acid, not the base. So that's also incorrect. And D says it turns blue litmus red. So blue to red is an indication of again an acid. Acid turns blue litmus red. So that's wrong. So that's why A is the correct option. Then question number 23. The periodic table shows the position of 4 different elements. Which row is correct? So we have to relate these elements with their information in the table. A element A element. Sardar, can you tell me, what do you know about A? A is a hydrogen element or not hydrogen element? Is A hydrogen element? Zain, what did you say? Is A hydrogen element?
Um, A is no.
Okay. Sardar, what do you say? Please respond me either on microphone or in the chat box. Please respond. Okay, so you're correct, Shannon. A is not hydrogen because this is hydrogen. So A is basically other element other than is another element apart from hydrogen. It's basically a metal. A is a metal because this is group one, this is group two, and this extreme right group is you can have different names. Group 8, 18, 0, noble gases or inert gases. Sadar, I didn't ask you that question. I asked you something different. You are supposed to give answer according to the question I'm asking, not the question as a whole. I just asked you whether A is a hydrogen element or not. That's what I asked you. You were supposed to respond in the chat box, even if you are not clearly hearing the question. You can ask me again, but you have to respond. So be attentive every time. So this box is not a hydrogen. That's what I asked you. Sorry, this box is a hydrogen, but this A is not hydrogen. This is another element of group one. Okay, so what we are looking at? We are looking at A is basically a metal. C is also a metal. D is a noble gas or group 8 element or a D element. So what we have A, they are saying A is a non-metal. That's wrong because non-metal was this one. This was the hydrogen. This is non-metal. B is a metal. No, it is not a metal. It's a non-metal. It's not a metal. C metal. Yes, it's a metal. And D non-metal. That's also correct. Non-metal because this whole region is the region of the non-metal. So among the C and D, we have to look at further information. Number of electron shell and number of electrons in the outer shell. So the number of electrons in the outer shell is according to the group number. If C is a metal and if it is present group number 2, it would have 2 electrons in the outermost shell. So this is also correct option. That's also correct information in the second column. And D, although the first column is correct, but the second column is not correct because in this D, there will be 8 electrons in the outermost shell. So it should be 8, not 7. So for this reason, C is the correct option. Question number 25. Which metal oxide reacts with aqueous sodium hydroxide to form a salt and a water? So here, one of the reactant is basically sodium hydroxide, NaOH, And we now NaOH is a very strong base or alkali. You can either say alkali or base. So it's a strong alkali, and if it has to produce salt and water, it must react with the acid. NaOH must react with the acid over here. But among the options given, calcium oxide is a base, copper oxide is also a base, sodium oxide is also a base, and aluminum oxide is amphoteric. And we know amphoteric are those compounds which have both acidic as well as basic properties. Both properties are present in amphoteric oxides. So NaOH can react with the amphoteric as well because it also contains the acidic property. So that's why D is the correct option. And we learned in the previous class what are the other oxide which are considered to be aluminum. We have lead oxide, zinc oxide. So apart from aluminum oxide, which is Al2O3, these two are also the amphoteric compounds. Then question number 26. Which row identifies a transition element? So transition element, we must refer to the properties of the transition elements. They are such elements which have high melting point and they also have the high densities. This is what we learned in the literature. So for this reason, A is supposed to be the correct option. Then question number 27. Which statement about group 1 or group 7 elements is correct? Group 7 elements are monatomic nonmetals. Okay, so group 7, as we said before, no, we said about group 8. Monatomic means single atoms. Monatomic means single atoms, and these is referring to the noble gases. Normal gases are all those which have single atoms in their existence. So noble gases are basically group 8, not group 7. So this makes A incorrect. B, lithium is more reactive than with water than cesium. So we must remember reactivity increases down the group. For group 1 element, this is the order of metals: lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, and then cesium. So cesium is more reactive than lithium, not the reverse case. So B is incorrect. Then C, the melting point of group 1 metals increases down the group. So melting point does not increase, rather it decreases down the group. And the reason was because of the increased size of the metals. As you move down the group, the size of metals increase, which reduces the strength of the metallic bond. Metallic bond strength decreases or metallic bond weakens. Metallic bond weakens moving down the group. So for this reason, melting point also decreases. Melting point decreases. So that's why C is also incorrect. The D option, potassium bromide reacts with chlorine to produce an orange solution. Potassium bromide, which is KBr, reacting with the chlorine, so it should produce. We remember the reactivity of the halogens. F2 is more reactive than Cl2, which is more reactive than Br2, which is more reactive than I2. So chlorine can displace the elements below it. So Cl2 can displace the bromide from its solution. So as a result of this, there will be the formation of the Br2 and KCl. And Br2 is exhibited as orange solution. So this Br2 has this color. So that is why D is the correct option. Then the question number 28. Some information about four metals P, Q, R, and S are given. Metal P, we have to identify the identity of these metals. Metal P does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid. Metal Q is more reactive than magnesium. Metal R reacts rapidly with cold water, produce hydrogen. Metal S reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid, produce hydrogen. So P, what is P here? P does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid. It can be gold, it can be copper, it can be silver, because we will refer to the chapter of metals for identifying the metals. Here in this table, you can see the direction of the metals with the dilute HCl and dilute H2SO4. So among these, this column we have these elements: copper, silver, gold. All these three elements does not give reaction with the HCl. Similarly, the same type of table is present here, and this is what mentioned here: metal reaction with water, with acid. So among these, copper, silver, they do not react with the acid in the diluted form, but they can react with the concentrated acids. This is the difference of the concentration of the acid. So we can tell that A, B, C are correct options according to the first point. So according to first point, the options are A, B, and C. These are correct options. According to first point, then comes the second point. Metal Q is more reactive than magnesium. Metal Q is more reactive than magnesium. So we have to look at the series of the metals. Which element is above the magnesium in terms of reactivity? So more reactive than magnesium. Here is the table. More reactive than magnesium is calcium, sodium, and potassium. Calcium, sodium, potassium are the three elements which have higher reactivity than magnesium. Similarly, the same elements I mentioned here: calcium, sodium, and potassium. Okay, so Q will be either potassium or calcium and sodium. All these three elements are there: calcium, sodium, and potassium. We already eliminated the option D, so it will not be sodium. We are left with option B and C. So the second point we can say it is one of the two options, B and C. Then our next point is metal R reacts rapidly cold water produce hydrogen. So R reacts rapidly. So iron, as you know, it's a very less reactive element as compared to calcium because iron is over here and calcium is over here. So iron is very much less reactive as compared to the calcium. Similarly here, iron shows very less degree of reaction as compared to the calcium. Calcium can even react with the cold water, but iron requires steam for the reaction to proceed. So it's now clear that R will be a calcium. And at the last S react with dilute hydrochloric acid produce hydrogen gas. So it will be magnesium, which is already a strongly a metallic element, the magnesium. So that's why correct option is the B option. I hope it's clear to you. Then question number 29 will be skipped, 30 as well, 31 and 30, 32. We will do the question 32. Iron is extracted from iron trioxide in the blast furnace. Three steps in the process are listed. What is the correct order of the steps in the extraction of the iron? Now, for this purpose, we will refer to the topic of the iron extraction from the literature. All right. Here, extraction of the iron and the steps involved in the extraction of iron is mentioned here. First of all, there is a reaction of the carbon with the oxygen to make CO2. And in the next part, the limestone is broken down to make calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide reacts with the carbon to make CO, and CO reacts with the iron oxide to make iron and carbon dioxide. So these are the steps. Now we go back to here. Carbon is completely oxidized, iron is reduced, and iron oxide is reduced is the last step. Iron oxide is reduced here because we are eliminating the oxygen from the compound of iron. So this reaction is the reduction reaction, and it's also mentioned here reduces the iron oxide, which means reduction of the iron oxide. So this is the last step. So we will consider second step to be the last step, and among the options we have B and C as the step containing second step to be the last one. And the third step is carbon dioxide is reduced to carbon monoxide. So we need to check whether first the one is the first step or three the first step. So third point is carbon dioxide is reduced to carbon monoxide. So this is mentioned over here. Carbon dioxide is reduced to carbon monoxide. This is the second step. If this is the last step, this would be the mm, before uh, before the last step, and this is another step mentioned here. Carbon is completely oxidized, which is this one. This is the first step. So we say this is the first step. This is the third step, And this will be the second step. So 2, 1, and 3. 2 is the last step, and 2 is the last step here. This is the 1 is the first step, and the third step is the middle step. So this is the correct sequence here. So 32 answers 2 is B option. Then question 33. Three different reactions that occur during the extraction of aluminium from purified bauxite are listed. Which reactions occur at the anode? So it is definitely not the first, because this is the reduction. The second and third, both are occurring at the anode, because at anode there is the oxidation of oxide ion. This one, oxidation of the oxide ion occurs to form oxygen molecule, and the same oxygen molecule reacts with the graphite, which is the constituent of the anode, to make carbon dioxide. It is also occurs. So second and third, both are occurring at the anode. So C is the correct option. So that's it. These are all the relevant questions of the topics which we are covering. So that's it. That's all for today. We will cover the questions of the same four topics from the paper 4 in the next class. If you have any questions, all right, sir. So we will be covering some more papers in the next classes. And if you are interested in acquiring these notes, which are compiled by me for these for the whole course of IGCSE, you can reach me out on my WhatsApp number and my YouTube channel in the comment section. So that's all for today's students. Till our next class, take care and bye bye, everyone.